Ladies and gentlemen.
I want to know, can you find your mind?
Welcome to Love Your Brain.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Eric.
Hey everybody, my name's Dave. Welcome to Love Your Brain. This is our podcast.
Number 4.
It's number 4.
Yep.
And this is where we're going to sit around and we're going to talk about stuff that we want to talk about. And hopefully people are going to want to listen to it too.
That's right.
So we're, Eric and I were talking on the way in and we decided that probably be a good idea to kind of catch up on last episode.
Yeah, if you
Aside
listen
from
to
the
it.
fact that we're like a bad 80s sitcom that just leaves you on cliffhanger after cliffhanger every episode,
Right.
right? Last time's cliffhanger, well, to start with, I was aggressively trying to prove my point many times.
You were shot
throughout
out of a
it.
cannon, as I told you before. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a dingleberry a couple times. And so I want to apologize for that. Next time I'll do it more stealthily.
Yeah.
I'm still going to do it.
You'll be a stealthy dingleberry.
Yeah.
Cool. A kind,
It's the ones you never
compassionate
see coming.
dingleberry.
Yeah.
All right. I look forward to that.
They're like the fuzzy ones that you have like on the edge of curtains.
No.
So, I said curtains, man. So, but the other thing is that we left you on a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it got pretty intense.
Oh, I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
If it sounds like there's a lot of little teeny people clapping in the background, that's because the microphones are picking up the little tiny people we've got clapping in the background,
Yep.
or the thunderstorm,
Or
whichever
the
it is,
rain
yeah.
that is pattering on the roof. But I like Dave's thoughts on that. So, yeah, I would say last podcast was very intense at times, and some very controversial topics came up. I think for the most part, though, when I re-listened to it, you and I were really agreeing on most everything. We were just saying things our own way and being really intense about what we were saying. However, towards the end, when we started to get into moon landing topics, that's when Dave's dingleberryness, I think, maybe kind of got more intensified.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what it did though is it wants me to. I'd like to do, an episode that looks into it and talks about how misinformation and disinformation work in the brain.
That's right.
And how they mess with our cognitive abilities. So we'll probably do that at some point. I
We
think-
will have a follow-up to that podcast once we assess and prepare a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say that in saying misinformation and disinformation, depends on either side of it. Whichever way you're coming at it, you think the other side is the either disinformation or misinformation.
That's right.
And I say them both, and we'll talk about why. So,
That's right.
Yeah. So, anyways, that aside, how you been?
I've been busy. I've been inventing a lot of possibility in my life. I've faced a lot of shadow and started to become complete in certain decisions that I've been incomplete about. And I've found that in my life, when I am indecisive and incomplete in certain aspects of my life that I need to choose where I'm moving, as in forward or backward or taking a different path, that incompleteness causes a lot of suffering. And I think I've heard you say this before a long time ago, man. I've known you a long time. I don't suffer well.
That's yes.
Is that your line that I just
I have said that once or 50 times. Yes, because I do not suffer well.
Yeah, dude.
Those around me who know me
Yeah.
know when I'm going through
Yeah,
it.
bro. I'm the same way. So I would say that I've had a lot less self-induced suffering because I've been more complete in the decisions in my life that needed to be made. So that's my answer. How about you, man? How you been?
I'm all right. I want to follow that up by saying, it's funny that most of the pain and change is usually in the opposition to it.
That's right.
It's all in the expectation of, I don't want to change this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to feel this way, look this way, whatever it is. It's more the part in your head that builds up before you get there that causes, or for me, that's what causes the pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say too, just to add on to that, it's, we were talking about it on the way over. It's those expectations, right? Which all expectations are premeditated resentments, and a lot of the time just future disappointments. So for me, it's about allowing what is to be and being in full radical acceptance of it rather than where I think my life should be. And when I radically accept where my life is at, I actually start to see the abundance that's in front of me,
I was telling you that I saw that, that kind of expectation being a premeditated resentment as the suffering of change, that, that we build up for something, we expect something, there's an attachment there to an outcome. And then what happens is that even if we get it, at some point, it no longer becomes new, and then we fall.
It's coming to mind.
And that's the suffering of change, is that ultimate fall that comes after the lift that you artificially gave yourself.
Lift you artificially gave. So what I've heard, I don't know when I heard it. I was going to say recently. I've just heard it before that like this happens a lot to people after they get married. Just like all that anticipatory, excitable energy that they're putting forth to this like big event, and then the event happens and like they go into depression.
Then you realize you got to go home and clean the toilet. So we are, Eric and I were talking about a topic that we'd like to do an episode on, and we very quickly both independently realized before telling the other that it's probably going to be more than one episode.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the topic that we wanted to do is addiction.
Addiction.
Yeah. So we want to do something on addiction, but I put forth that I think we need to talk a little bit about how people end up in addiction, so that maybe somebody somewhere somehow gets a little teeny bit of this, and maybe it stops them from progressing to that state. Maybe help somebody, because it's great to be able to define addiction, but it's even better to be able to avoid it.
Information is helpful, man. Information is really helpful. And I'll talk about the 5 stages of change at some point in this talk, whether it's this episode or the next episode or 2 episodes from now. But I will tell you that for a lot of people that are struggling with addiction, most of them are in that pre-contemplative stage of change or that contemplative stage of change. And that stage of change is 5 of them, but those stages of change, really, information is a key ingredient. Information sometimes can be that single seed that needs to be planted that will grow into more of self-recognition and or self-awareness.
A giant mustard plant of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so we're here to talk, to provide some information, to provide some insight, and also some experience about this topic.
Yeah. So I think one of the first things that I found important, is, probably, let me stumble a bit and start over.
Do it.
Yeah. So
Just did.
I keep wanting to either start by talking about something I did or just start by saying, is that it probably helps to be honest about the fact of why people do things that are addictive, that can become addicting. Whether that be drinking, whether that be using drugs, whether that be gaming, whether that be shopping,
Social media.
social media, all of those things. And why do people start to do it in the first place?
Right.
You know,
It's a good question.
and as a kind of scientifically based guy, there's the dopamine spike is probably the biggest thing that I can say.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what it is, is that that's a neurotransmitter.
Right.
And as a feel good chemical that gets, and so when things like, let's say you go and post a message on your social media, have you ever had something go viral?
I have actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I have, yeah.
So have I. So you post it, and then you forget about it, and you go back like a day and a half later, and you look, and there's like thousands upon thousands, and you're like, what the?
Dopamine hit central.
Yeah, and then every
Now I
time you
gotta
see a
check.
batch
I
after
gotta
that,
check every 5 minutes to see.
every time you go back, and you're
how
like,
many more
yeah,
followers or how many more people like this. Yeah, I mean that's a great metaphor for addiction.
yeah. And I remember when I finally hit my blog on all 7 continents had been
All
read.
7 continents.
All 7 continents.
Oh boy.
Some poor guy in the middle of the night, someone in the McMurdo station down in Antarctica stops and's like, this guy's a little messed up. Read for a minute and moved on. But I still got to tag 7 continents.
You beat me.
But that dopamine rush, that feeling like when you're nervous and you're trying to ask a girl out and you're in a bar, let's say, do a shot, drink a beer down, something like that, get a little bit of courage up,
Liquid.
right? And then boom, you're able to go out there and do something. You get that feeling of aha. And you also get a few other things from the alcohol,
Right.
but that kind of dopamine spike happens, and
We want to keep going back to it.
it feels good.
Feels good.
It's fun,
It
right?
can be.
Right? Have a good time. No, I'm saying in general, nobody would go back if like they drank a beer and just hell rained down on them.
Right.
People wouldn't regularly go back to the bar.
Right.
Right? So it feels good, and it obviously feels good repeatedly for most people.
But once you are addicted, the crazy thing is that people will go back when hell has rained down on them. After time, once they've reached that threshold, and we're going to get into it. We have a lot of information to share with you, but that's the paradox, that you just brought up, is that people that do reach that threshold of addiction, where it started off as something fun, and they got a dopamine hit from it, and then years later they're losing jobs, they're losing friends, they're suffering. They still keep going back there, and that's where where you're in the grips of addiction.
But what happens between I just had my first beer, asked that girl out, and oh my God, I need to go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I need to go into rehab.
Yeah.
Right? What happened in between there? Like what? It was fun. I was
Right.
having a good time. Right? Go hanging out with my buddies down at the bar, make friends with the waitresses. Pretty soon, every time I come in, sorry, it's been a while since I guess I've been to a bar, to the servers. And they, go in, you get your drink, automatically you walk through the door, it's ready for you.
They know your name. It's like Cheers, right?
I am still famous to the guy who used to play guitar. I got up on stage with him and tried to do the entire Alice's Restaurant in a bar. It's like 20 minutes long.
Oh yeah. Was it during Easter?
No, this is just in the middle of, it was like midnight on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, having a great time.
Yeah.
Didn't have such a great time the next morning in that particular instance, but, and it's really, really, it's a social thing, right? Especially if, people that you are already friends with or people that you want to be friends with are going to places and having a couple drinks. It's kind of a social thing to do. you loosens you up a little bit, makes it a little easier to talk, inhibitions drop a little bit, maybe ask somebody out, and there are some parts that seem genuinely good,
Yeah.
And there's also a feeling, right? I mean, oftentimes people are going to do something like that for the feeling they get, right? Which not only from the dopamine spike, but there's also
GABA, there's GABA receptors involved with alcohol and other drugs
yeah, and
deal
so
with other types of neurotransmitters, but yeah.
and and what ends up happening, of course, is those. So I want to talk particularly about something like, let's say, alcohol or other drugs. And I guess even the same for things like social media, gaming, things like that.
Right.
But, there's this thing called tolerance.
Yeah.
Right? What's tolerance?
Tolerance, I mean, there's different ways to define it, but tolerance in general is that the more you consume, the more you need to get that feeling.
And I might even shorten it to say it's the amount you can have that you can take of something before you feel it.
Right, right.
Right. So if you got a low tolerance for pain,
Right.
doesn't take much to be in pain.
Right, right.
Somebody's got a really high tolerance for pain.
Yep.
Do something, barely even notice it. Right.
Yeah.
You got a low tolerance for alcohol. You have like a beer, and you're pretty dizzy and giggly and things like that. And you got a high tolerance right out of the gate. I did. I drank 3-4 beers before I'd really start to feel like that somebody else was feeling like on one.
I don't know if I had a high tolerance, but I just didn't want to stop. Once I got the feel good, I wanted more feel good.
Well, I'm saying in general, I'm trying to describe how tolerance plays a role in addiction,
Right.
right? So if I'm using something to the point where I feel it,
Yep.
right? Okay, I understand that you just want to go back and feel it again.
Yeah.
But what happens is that when you are using something like that, say alcohol, and you get that feeling, well, it's poison. It's not meant to be in your body. It's a foreign substance. And your body, in a way to protect itself, actually raises its resistance to it and to protect you,
That's right.
right? To protect the brain, protect what's happening. And it raises this tolerance to this substance in the body. And if you want the feeling, what are you going to do?
You need more.
And then what happens is your tolerance gets raised, which means if you want the feeling, you got to use more and you got to use more, which is why I could start with 3 beers when I was a kid and get a pretty good buzz on,
Yeah.
To the point where 12, 18 beers on a Sunday afternoon wasn't out of the question,
Still functioning.
still functioning. Yeah. And, and somewhere in there, you gradually adapt to that, and that's tolerance.
Yes. Well done. I think that's a good way of putting tolerance in a simplistic layman's terms without getting too
Yeah,
caught up in the minutia.
Yeah, and then the bottom line is your body's trying to seek a homeostasis, it's trying to protect itself, and so tolerance is this thing that when you exceed, it'll adapt, and you will need to, if you're going for the feeling, you're going to need to use more. Alcohol is a mildly addicting substance compared to something like heroin,
Right.
right? And how would you, on working with heroin addicts and such, how did you see a tolerance thing even? I'm looking for
Come
a
into
word here.
play?
Yeah, come into play with something like
with
heroin.
using? Are you asking me that question?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yes, I have worked with a lot of heroin addicts in the past, in many different contexts. But man, that's a great question because I don't know if tolerance was ever really a part of the game. It's almost like it was instantaneous. I don't think there was ever a semblance of real control of that potent of a
So,
substance.
so consider this.
Yeah.
What you're saying is that there was no entry-level tolerance. It was, you just felt it,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
But was there a tolerance once they started using?
That is true.
And did it rise?
Yes, it did.
And how did it rise quickly?
Very quickly.
So here's something I found out is that apparently this has something to do with the speed at which a substance leaves the body, an intoxicating substance leaves the body, that I guess contributes it to somehow being more addicting. I don't really have all the stats on that.
Okay. And once again, Dave and I would like to say that we are not experts.
We are not.
We are not, we're just humans that know some things and like to share stuff. So
If you do have if you ever have a problem with anything we say, feel free to write into viewer mail, and we'll be happy to read it on the show.
there you go.
Eric will give you the address later.
That's good.
So I guess my point there is that, so you see the tolerance raise over the course of years with alcohol, but like days and weeks
Yeah.
with heroin.
Yes.
And it probably be a good idea to say something about what happens after you get to like that kind of point at with heroin or alcohol up at that point, right? That's
What
when you
point? The point of like being addicted?
you get into using large amounts. You either become a regular heavy user or an addict. We're going to have to probably explain what the difference is between those two.
I'm happy to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't run to the end of that though.
Yeah,
That'll be like on episode 3.
Yeah, we've got some more
Or
things.
episode 17.
Yeah,
or
look at the
something like
time
that.
already too. Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
it's not 11:11, people. It is not 11:11. He sends me a text at 11:11, and then sends me a text at 11:12 to tell me it's 11:11.
Yep, I'm a numbers guy, and I know there's a lot of you out there.
Yeah. So, I guess I kind of wanted to talk just a little bit about some of that early stuff. Like, I'm willing to bet there's probably some people out there that figure that alcoholism or addiction is purely something that comes from your parents.
Like DNA, hereditary.
Yeah, your dad's a junkie, you're a junkie.
Right.
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 Your dad's a drunk, you're a drunk.
Right.
Mom's a drunk, you're a drunk. Or there's probably others that are like, well, that, feel as though that the more you're around it, what else is he going to do? That's all I ever saw growing up, right? All I ever saw growing up was somebody with a beer in front of him, with a couple fingers of whiskey next to it, right?
Same here, man.
So what else was I going to do?
I mean, growing up for me, I grew up in what I refer to as a drinking culture, where anytime there was adults having a good time and being jovial and joking around and family functions and cookouts and, bonfires by the ice skating rink, everyone was drinking. So for me, it was like, oh, this is what it means to have a good time.
So it's like Norman Rockwell meets a Budweiser commercial. So like,
Yeah, pretty much, man.
it kinda sounded like
Because
you
I mean, it's like,
described.
yeah, what a great childhood. Wow, that sounds awesome. And everyone was shit-faced. Uh-oh, I think that's the first time I swore.
it is.
Ding, ding, ding.
I'm no longer alone out here on my
No,
island.
but you've got me beat by about
no longer
25.
here on Shit Island by myself.
Nice.
So I guess my question to you, otherwise I could just sit here and talk, but I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
and see where you come back on this, is, so does that mean like, is it nature? Is it nurture? Right? Is it,
Yeah. It's both. It's both. And I think that a good term to use here is predisposition. And, for me, I had a very high predisposition to becoming an addict and or alcoholic, which I ended up becoming at some point in my life. And I'm okay sharing that. High predisposition for a few different reasons. One, I come from a long... I come from a long familial history of alcoholics. And I'll just say that without getting too specific, because I'm sure that there's a lot of family members that may or may not listen to this at some point. But I do. I come from a long line of alcoholics. That right there, I think you might even know the statistic on that. Like, that puts you at what?
Yeah, so I believe the latest studies I found, it was, let's see, I wrote it down here somewhere. So I think so there's roughly 5% of the general population that ends up with alcoholism or addiction.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I believe it's roughly that, and I may be wrong, but if you have a close family member, like somebody like father, mother, brother, somebody close to you in the genetic line, you're 4 times more likely.
4 times more likely.
Right? So let's just say that the 5% is accurate.
Yep.
4 times more likely means there's 20%
Yep.
of those with
Got it.
family member roughly will have alcoholism, which if you've got family members who are alcoholics or addicts, that still means that you would have 80% of chance of not becoming one.
That's right. And I've seen a lot of people walk the same similar path like I did to some family members. And I've seen people do the complete opposite. Like, see it, accept it for what it is, see the danger, the harm caused, the misery, the suffering, and go, yeah, I'm all set.
They make a different choice.
That's right. They make a different choice. But
And they're still walking around with that, that predisposition, but unless you're using to the point where you're hitting that tolerance and you're bumping it up, and which if you've got somebody in your family, it's very likely you could start off with, say, needing 3 to 5 beers to feel a buzz,
right.
for your first time. Not that I know anybody like that. Right, but that's what it was for me.
Right.
I had plenty of people in my family who were championship drinkers. But yeah. So what happens, of course, in that case is that person is more likely to have a higher tolerance, therefore need more alcohol or need to get high.
Which is setting them on the trajectory to that threshold. That threshold that I speak of is once you cross over that threshold, you are in.
You go from being a heavy user to an addict,
Right.
alcoholic,
Right.
and we're talking a lot about drugs and alcohol in this particular instance, but I think you could very easily just say the same thing with social media. Now, I don't personally use social media.
I do, and I'm addicted.
I do a little Redditing,
Yeah.
but
Now, you've been off of social media for how many years now?
I got off 2016, 17, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I had 3 different blogs going. I dumped them. Facebook, Instagram, a few others. I mean, I downloaded all the media because I just churned out so much data.
Yeah.
I downloaded it, but and it was really, really, really difficult not to pick up my phone for no particular reason. Like most of the time, if I don't need to make a call or look up a calendar date or something like that, there is no real good reason for me to pick up my phone. And I've even tried some of those other tricks, like where you change the contrast and color on your screen,
Right.
and literally make your phone black and white and boring as hell.
Yep.
And boy, does it take the fun out of it. Yeah.
Yep.
Because the fun, the looking at the cool little icons, the, hey, look, somebody responded to it, dopamine.
Dopamine hit.
Dopamine.
Yeah, man.
My high school girlfriend just posted a picture of herself in a bikini. Dopamine.
What are they up to? What's going on there? Investigation.
There's
It's a setup for a lot. It really is. Yeah, I'm on social media, and I definitely am going to be honest and say that I have struggled with my phone as being a barrier to spending time more wisely. And the first thing that comes to mind, which is kind of hard to say, is like, with my daughter. There's a lot of time wasted. There's a lot of time wasted wasting time, right? And what's keeping me on there are those little mini dopamine hits, and I'm pretty clear about it. And I've been tracking. You can track how much time you use your phone, and it can break it down into like reading books, making phone calls, text messages, social media. I've been really watching that.
Yeah.
Trying to get that spike down a bit. But then I have all these excuses, right? I own what, 2 businesses, and I have a nonprofit and blah 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 blah. So I have to be on there. I think that happens a lot with people that use drugs and alcohol too. They get into the buying their own bullshit. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I tried to keep to paper and pen, and I like doing pen and ink stuff. I tried to keep it for a while, but then I would go and scan it in. Yeah. And then I would open it up and clean up the art. Right. And then pretty soon I'm like, what am I doing? So I'm constantly on it. I've actually set up one device that I use, and I won't allow any office type of productive apps on it. Mm-hmm. Nothing beyond a browser and, audio editing tools, photo editing tools, creation tools, things like that. Writing programs, but just purely because, in an ode to Frank Zappa, I call it the blank page.
Nice.
Instead of the black page.
Nice.
And because it's always the blank page, which can be one of the more intimidating things to an artist. So social media, I mean, and it's funny because you do see some people who like only go on to check up on the grandkids or whatever, few things, check up on their company stuff and get off, right? And then there's other people who, no matter where they are, they're walking across the street, they're absolutely glued to it. And what's the difference there again?
Yeah. What's the difference? I mean, it's to me, the word that comes up is control. And I think that people that struggle with controlling their usage of anything need to take a serious look at what it is that they're using. And for me, it's social media. I need to take a serious look, and I have been recently. I have a semblance of control at times, and then at other times I find myself going 2.5 hours just gone. Getting caught in that rabbit hole, flipping through and little mini, dopamine hits, and
and then they lead to
shame, guilt.
Well, I was going to say a lot of this stuff leads to problems, right? Like there's the short-term ones of, will you get off your phone and get over here and help me make dinner?
Right.
To the longer-term ones like, well, sorry, Eric, but you haven't been working. You've been on your phone for 3 weeks.
Right.
And we're going to have to let you go.
Yeah.
Short-term, drunk, drive off the road into take out somebody's mailbox and end up in the middle of their living room. That can happen one night.
That can happen to someone who's not an alcoholic.
Yeah, can happen in one night.
Just had a few too many.
First time they ever drank.
Well, you might want to take a serious look at where you're headed, what trajectory
Then there's other
you're
people,
on.
like I had a relative who had their liver transplanted. They had cirrhosis.
Yeah.
And it was self-induced.
Yeah.
It's funny because in the later years, he tried to still maintain that there was something else that was causing it.
Yeah.
Because it was a side effect. It was like
I know
a
that
buildup
scene.
of copper
I know that scene, man.
And it was a buildup, I think, of copper in his blood, and and they, as time's going on, the role of the alcohol played less and less a role in his head, and the role of the copper in the blood, which was really more a side effect of the liver breaking down.
Right.
Medically, that's what it really was. But to him, it was that was this, hereditary disease that was ruining his liver. And so, I mean, I definitely want to talk a lot about what happens with these psychological defenses. That
Oh
we
man,
have.
I got a lot to say. I mean, it's the human defense mechanisms. It's rationalization, justification, minimization, and complete and utter denial. Did I miss one? I think there's 5. That's 4. It's all right.
Wait. 5 what?
So I've got numbers in my head. You know what I mean? Like I just remember in psychology class at Keene State College, like junior year, and learning about the 5 human defense mechanisms. That's all it is, dude. But it's okay. I'm okay to just state 4 and be okay with that.
I didn't know somebody had bothered to number them.
My
I thought they were legion. In my mind, they are legion. They come from all angles.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
all times of the day or night.
Yeah. But back to you were talking about a family member that was hyper focused on the blood when, the real issue was right there in front of them. And I remember when I was in active addiction, doing that, just absolutely justifying what I was doing because I'm a young kid, minimizing what I'm doing because I'm in the music scene. I'm a drummer in a band. This is what musicians do. It's a part of the culture,
Which, to some extent, is true.
Right, but boy, did I latch on to that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
latched on to that to not have to take a serious look at really what I was consuming and how it was impacting me as an individual and the people around me.
So, yeah, there's definitely some people who take Keith Richards Boulevard, in the music industry. But don't get me wrong, I love Keith. But he has been known to dabble.
How old is he now?
He's like 170.
He's
He's older than the goddamn Crypt Keeper, man. So, no, I think he's
Keith
he's
Richards.
like late 70s, maybe.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway, crap, I had something really good I was going to say too.
We were talking about the
Oh, no, so I was going to
defense,
say like,
defense.
yeah, I mean,
human
dude,
defenses.
I from
that I was a genius
early
with.
teens
Maybe still
started
am.
following the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. Say that again.
That again.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay. From my early teenage years, I started following the Dead,
Yeah.
I started in the early 80s and went all the way until Garcia died. I still had my final tickets for the Boston Garden, and it was a huge thing. I mean, I went all over the country,
Yeah.
I saw them in triple digits amount of shows. And
You also saw plenty of Fish shows. You really,
I
you really
saw-
impressed my my
Yeah.
business partner the other
Yeah.
day with some of the shows you've seen. But
yeah,
anyways.
I lucked into some of the really big ones. I like to just annoy Fish fans by saying, yeah, I've seen Harpoon at least 4 or 5
Yeah, I
times.
mean, you were
That
sending
one
me
just-
you were sending me text messages of Fish shows that you've seen, and he was like, "No way!" And he's like, in his late 30s. So
Yeah, and
he's
so that's
a lot of
all-
envy.
That's all I did was tour, right?
Yeah.
And there's constantly everything on tour, everything from beer all the way up the
What do
ladder.
they call it? Shakedown Street.
Yeah, we didn't really call it that
No.
back then. Back then we called it the parking lot. And I'm not joking.
Yeah,
That was it.
I think it turned into Shakedown Street. at
It
some
did
point.
eventually turn
I think
into
maybe
Shakedown
like in the
Street.
mid to late 90s.
Yeah, but I mean, this back then
I'm,
it was
I'm
just
making numbers up.
the parking lot.
The parking lot.
I sold.
You sold. Yeah, I know what you sold. Didn't you sell grilled cheese sandwiches?
I sold lots of grilled cheese. I sold spaghetti, sold beer, sold lots of different shirts that I did all the artwork on
That's
myself
cool.
and the tie-dyeing, hand painting some of them. Posters I made,
Yeah.
reproduced, made tons of posters. So I always sold a lot of things. It was that point in my life before I made the decision to either go straight and actually get a job with insurance and all that, or try to continue to support myself with the ways I'd been doing it. And I'm still not sure I picked the right way, but it's kind of how it turned out. So that's what I'm playing right
There
now.
you are, buddy.
And so, here's one of those things is, say smoking pot in my neighborhood, in my school, was amongst everybody that I was around. And that's key. We'll talk a little bit about that too, about it was everybody I was around. To me, everybody was smoking it.
Same here.
Except
Everyone was
for,
smoking
it turns
pot
out
and
it was
drinking
only
beers.
everybody I was around.
Exactly. And I think that's a good point to make to the
Yeah,
listeners
and
that
I think we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
But at the time, everybody I knew was smoking it. And I'd get paranoid and stuff. I didn't really like it.
Yep.
And so I didn't do it that much. But, I like to drink, and so nobody really kind of, whatever, that's just the way it was. I mean, it's not like I didn't use it occasionally, and compared to probably some people out there, it was way more than they'll ever do.
Right.
But to me, and
It
compared
was-
to everybody I was around, it was real low end.
Dude, I mean, I just want
Right?
to, yeah.
But
Go ahead.
to finish my story, right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing, is that it was so expected that I was working at a place, would be in the late 80s down at the 128 Route 3 corridor, which was like the tech center at the time. And I was working at this place, and it was a pretty high-end tech company. And this guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey, Dave, can you get me some pot?" And I kind of looked at him. I'm like, "No, I don't even smoke pot." He goes, "Yeah, but you listen to the Dead, so you know people who do." And it was kind of this expected thing, but I did not do that. So it's funny because there were certain things that I was willing to do, certain things I did not do. And a lot of it really did have to do with, the people that I was around, But I guess I just wanted to kind of, you were a drummer and it was expected. I was a deadhead. It was expected.
Right.
I
was also a rugby player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other thing is that I found that when I smoked pot, it didn't mix very well with psychedelics, which is probably where the paranoia was coming from, and the two got together for
You
me.
might be onto something there.
And I had to make a choice. And now we know why I'm so weird. So
I'm glad you made that choice.
thank you. No, and so I guess, and just kind of talking about that stuff, it's kind of interesting listening to, your job was, you were playing bars, right? I mean, for a lot
yeah.
of this.
Yeah, man, I was playing festivals. I was playing bars. Some shows were, worthwhile. Nice big crowds, and some were hole in the walls, and it was, basically other bands and their girlfriends and friends hanging out. So I played the spectrum of shows. Yep, and I played some big stadiums too. But what's your?
Well, if that's what you're calling some friends and their friends, then I played a couple shows with you. I mean, we've played together a few places.
Yes, we have. Yep.
But I wouldn't know if I'd call them shows.
They were performances.
They were performances.
That's for sure.
They were a lot of fun.
That's right.
But I don't, in a truest form of art, I would say it was more like we were playing, and there were other people around, which is fine, but we were playing.
That's right.
It wasn't for them. It was just
No,
to play.
it was for us.
It
Yep.
was to play.
Yeah.
Because you get that dopamine spike
That healthy dopamine spike.
and burst of serotonin to boot.
And that's
Turns out those are the only two things that have ever made you feel good in your whole life.
I mean, if you want to break it down, presynaptic and postsynaptic membranes and action potentials with neurotransmitters, then yeah, you're right. But that's the scientific
Right? I mean,
perspective.
it gets a little bit cold and chilly in that room.
It's cold and chilly in this room.
I freaking love it.
It is cold and chilly in this room.
It's we're in New Hampshire, right? And so at this particular point, it's evening and it's still probably about 97 degrees out with about a 90% humidity.
Yep.
And we're in this room with the AC cranked, and
I'd say it's about 64.
Eric's got his hands over his man boobs trying to cover up the nipples.
I wouldn't say man boobs. Yeah.
You think that one's going to get beeped?
Let's see. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking about lifestyles and people around us and excuses that we make for the lifestyles we live, and you know what we see as just normal. And I remember, you know, even in high school, we were all drinking like fish on the weekends and sometimes during the week. And I wouldn't say I was I wouldn't say I'd reached that threshold of addiction at that point, but I was definitely playing with fire. But I just remember being like, yeah, but he's way worse than me. And what he did the other night and how he was puking on himself and all that, I would use those examples to minimize my own consumption. When in all reality, there was so many more people in our general vicinity of where we live that weren't drinking at all.
One of the things that struck me when I was teaching some of this stuff was that I would see people who are like lawyers, doctors, stay-at-home parents, people who would, maybe, I had a friend who was a 18-wheel truck driver, he would, when he got out, there'd be guys out in the parking lot having a few beers. He'd go home, have a few more beers, and he did this every day. And he'd go through about a 12-pack every day until one day, he couldn't have, he wasn't drinking, he wasn't feeling well, and how horrible he started to feel when he wasn't drinking. And ultimately ended up having to go to rehab because they didn't realize that even though they were living what seems a very respectable life, they're working hard.
Yep.
They might be drinking a little bit more than normal, but they eat well, they exercise, they do everything right. And all of a sudden they find themselves in this situation where they're like, how the hell did I end up addicted to something?
Yeah.
So it's not just a bunch of deadheads of musicians.
No, man.
It's not about those damn jazz musicians and their wacky tobacco. No, but I mean, it's, it is somebody who goes out, for their birthday and has a couple too many and then drives, where they can have all kinds of problems. And then it's the people who are working a good life. Alcohol is one of the beverages they drink every day. And one day they find themselves on the other side of things.
And they say it's a progressive thing.
Or it can be like, I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
You can be like my brother, my younger brother. I mentioned him in the first episode.
You did.
Right? He got a sports injury. He started taking opiates for the sports injury. The pain continued. The prescription did not.
Yeah.
And he began to, he drank to kind of, help control the pain, but he started buying pills off the street. Pills get really expensive off the street. Heroin's a lot cheaper. At some point in time, he had moved all the way into heroin, and I had no clue that he was even using opiates until the day he died, and that's how I found out, right? But the progression was, sports star, right?
Yeah.
Triple letter in high school, and the years pass, and nursing a sports injury. And he's not the only person,
No,
athlete
there's
who's
many
ended there.
people that started off with prescription opiates. Absolutely.
So while we're wrapping this up, I kind of wanted to make sure we got some stuff in there about the fact that this happens to just about anybody who uses to a point where, let's say, your tolerance goes up, et cetera, et cetera. But it's, it's very non-discriminate.
No, and I just remember when I first started to. I remember the first time someone mentioned to me, you might be an alcoholic. I had this picture in my head of a homeless person on a park bench with, the bottle in the paper bag, because that helped me not have to face the fact that maybe I too have a problem. And one thing that I have found also in my work with addicts, alcoholics over the years is that most addicts and alcoholics are very highly functioning people, and then they're not. But for years and years and years they are, and I think that that's another way to use those human defense mechanisms to not really face the issue that you're dealing with.
I got a job. I bring home good money.
Dude, yep.
I eat well.
Pay
I
my
exercise.
bills. I bring my kids places.
I work hard and I play hard.
That's it, right? Yeah. And addiction affects. If you're a human, you can be affected by addiction. And
you don't even have to be human. I think you just need to be an animal.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
they've proved it enough, unfortunately, in test sites.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
If you're a mammal, you're prone to addiction.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. And if you're a human, it doesn't matter what class you come from. It doesn't matter, your background, your history, the language you speak. It can affect you, and it can hit you a lot harder than you think. And sometimes it does take years before it does. But if that's a little seed to be planted for those out there that are listening and going, tilting their heads a little bit and going, well, then that's okay.
I think next episode I'd like to kind of jump in a little bit more, talking about some of those things that start to change in the brain as you start to drink a little more, smoke a little more, stay on social networking a little more, social media a little more. I think it'd be a good place to kind of jump back in maybe.
Well, I think that this episode was good. We talked about tolerance. We talked about predisposition. We talked about the culture,
some social influences,
the defense mechanisms that we use.
Yeah.
So we covered
touched
a lot
on a few things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we got anywhere near what we should on the defense mechanism. I think there's more things to say about that.
I agree. Yeah, we could say a lot about that.
Well, all right. This has been a fantastic episode. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Dave. I agree.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll see you all next time for part 2 of this addiction series on Love Your Brain.
Thanks for listening, and until next time. Oh, wrong setting.
That's better. Thanks for listening, and until next time, don't forget to love your brain.